Olivier, we are glad to have you with us. He's a good friend of our ministry, and he has specialized on anti-Semitism and the causes of it, the study of it. He's written on it. He gives conferences about it, and so I hope that you can look him up, buy his books, and he will be a blessing to us. So welcome. Thank you for being with us, Olivier. God bless you as you speak to us today.
All right. Thank you very much, Jorge. It's good to see you. You're looking younger every day.
Oh, don't lie.
Well, that's what Marta told me to tell you. So, well, it's good to be back with you all again. I'm actually based in Dallas, not Houston, but that's okay. I wanted to let you know that the topic that I'm going to be sharing about today, I sent the PDF of the PowerPoint to you guys, and I'm also going to, I'll put it in the chat, and also in the chat room, I'm just going to do it right now. I'm going to send it right now. Hold on. There you go. I sent a link to this book, which is what my message is based on. I just released this book about a month and a half ago, The Normalization of Anti-Semitism, When the Oldest Hatred Becomes the New Normal. So if you want to get a copy of it, there's a link in the chat room. A couple of things. How much time do I have, Jorge? Seriously.
Just take the time. Feel free. 45 is...
Is 45 minutes too long?
That's fine.
Okay, all right. So now that you've agreed to 45, I'll take an hour and a half.
Well, we'll just cut you off, don't worry.
Okay, so am I able to share my screen? Should be able to share my screen, right? So let's see. Let's see how this works.
Would be good.
Are you seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes.
So let me make it the big screen real quick here. Hold on. Let me do that. Okay, now you see the whole thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So I will, again, you don't have to take notes because I'm going to give you the entire PowerPoint, which has basically all my notes are on it. So I want you to listen and don't worry about taking notes. And the reason why I wanted to do this topic is because I have noticed something. I've been studying and reading and teaching on the topic for well, about 23 years now, and I've noticed that there's been another shift in anti-Semitism globally. And so I've noticed what I call the normalization of anti-Semitism, where it's actually like the subtitle of my book, Becoming the New Normal. So I have identified 10 stages, and I'm just going to give you those 10, and just going to give a little bit of a spoiler alert. Out of the 10 stages that I've identified, 9 are already in place. This is why I think it's really critical that believers would be ready to reach out to their Jewish friends and families and co-workers and really let them know that they're there for them and they will do anything to help them. So that's my hope and my prayer, that when we look at where we are on the stages of anti-Semitism, it's becoming critical that we actually prepare ourselves to help our Jewish community, regardless of where we are, Canada, US, France, it doesn't matter. It's actually a global cancer right now. So a couple of definitions. Let me make sure I'm on the right clicker. Okay, there you go. Perfect. All right. So anti-Semitism is the irrational and demonic hatred of the Jewish people and of Israel, characterized by thoughts, words, and or deeds against them. So you're seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Good. All right. So I recently had to add the two words that I put in black here, irrational and demonic or satanic, because I believe that if we're going to study anti-Semitism, if we're going to understand anti-Semitism, and if we're going to be able to fight it and to oppose it, we have to realize that it is a satanic invention. I have read so many books on the topic in the last 2.5 decades, and articles, and talked to people and watched seminars and videos. And what I noticed is that the vast majority of scholars and teachers on the topic of anti-Semitism very seldom understand or discuss the satanic connection. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is this: anti-Semitism is the desire to get rid of the Jews just because they're Jews, and that comes from Satan, who wants to hurt the chosen people, who wants to hurt God. And he wants to stop God's program at any cost, and that's why he's trying to kill the Jews. So we have to understand it's satanic. We have to understand it's very irrational, because you'll meet people that are anti-Semitic, they hate the Jews, and you ask him, well, what have they done to you? Have you met any Jewish? I don't know anybody Jewish, I just hate them. And that's very, very unusual. And so irrational and demonic is very important. And so that's it for anti-Semitism. Then normalization is the process by which something previously considered abnormal or unacceptable becomes perceived as normal. Now, this is not, normalization in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. For instance, the normalization of diplomatic ties between two countries that were enemies before is a good thing. They're not enemies anymore. There is a normalization of their diplomatic ties, and they work together. And some of what we've seen a little bit with the Abraham Accords, you agree with them or not, what they are is they're bringing to the table a normalization of diplomatic ties, and that is not a bad thing. But when you think about the two words normalization and anti-Semitism, you should not put those two in the same sentence. They don't belong in the same sentence. So that's why I think it's a very unique and very dangerous thing when we look at the normalization of anti-Semitism. Now, I see the progress of anti-Semitism. I see 6 stages. And here they are on the screen. Theological anti-Judaism, you look at what, early on in biblical days, especially after the closing of the canon, where basically there was a difference between the Jews and the Christians. It was just a theological differences. There was not really any hatred to the point of wanting the Jews to be destroyed. That morphed into classical anti-Semitism that has gone for a long time, where it developed with the early church fathers through the Middle Ages, the Crusades, the Inquisition, all the way to the time of racial anti-Semitism. This was a shift where at the time that anti-Semitism became racial, we saw an important marker on the history of the Jewish people, which is the Holocaust. You can speak of Jewish people or Jewish history as a pre-Holocaust and post-Holocaust. So that's why I put that marker between the 6 here. Then you've got the new anti-Semitism. That's where we are right now. Actually, what I think we are right now is end times anti-Semitism. The reason why I see this is because I believe that in 2012, there was an event, an act of anti-Semitism that took place in France, in Toulouse, in the south of France, where several Jewish people, including a rabbi and several students at a Jewish day school, were killed by a terrorist, by a Muslim terrorist who came in the school and just started shooting people because they were Jewish. And we've seen more and more of that happen since 2012. So that's where I see that we are in end times anti-Semitism. But that's not the last one. There's one more after that. I believe the hardest of them all, the most devastating of them all, will be tribulation anti-Semitism during the time of Jacob's trouble, when all the Jewish people will be at risk. And when we know from Zechariah 13:8 and 9 that 2/3 of the Jewish people alive at that time will perish and only 1/3 will survive. So I believe I'm premillennial, pre-trib, and I believe the next event, which is imminent, we don't know when, but it could be any time, is the rapture of the believers. So I don't believe I don't believe believers will be in the tribulation, but there's still things we can do to help our Jewish friends before and to even prepare them for having to go through the tribulation. But right now we are in what I think is end times anti-Semitism. So to give you a quick overview of how it breaks on the spectrum, from biblical account to the Dark Ages, theological anti-Judaism, then classical anti-Semitism from the Dark Ages, which is the early Middle Ages, to post-World War I, then racial anti-Semitism, the Holocaust years, 33 to 45, new anti-Semitism, post-Holocaust to today. So we are in the new anti-Semitism, but we can focus on that and see that we are actually in end times anti-Semitism, 2012 to current. And as I just explained, the tribulation anti-Semitism, the final 7 years, and really, it's the final 3.5 years from the abomination of desolation, when the Antichrist desecrate the temple in Jerusalem in the middle of the tribulation. From that 3.5 year point to the end of the tribulation, before the millennial kingdom, that is when we see tribulation anti-Semitism, and it's going to be a devastating carnage, unfortunately. Here's one question that we have to ask ourselves: can another Holocaust happen? Well, for another Holocaust to happen, we have to have things in place. And there is a gentleman that I've read several of his work, and I'm sure you know his name, Simon Wiesenthal. In one of his books, Everyday Remembrance Day, A Chronicle of Jewish Martyrdom, he identified 6 things that needed to be in place for a Holocaust to possibly happen again. And I want you to look at those things and think, well, is this in place? And you're going to see that. I mean, I believe that they all are in place. Now, this is different from the 10 steps of the normalization of anti-Semitism. But to answer the question, can a Holocaust happen? Well, number one, you have to have hatred, bigotry, prejudice. So that box is checked. Then you have to have a dictatorship, one or a few or many. Like countries that are running like dictatorship. And frankly, my friends, you're in Canada or whoever else is watching online, but I'm telling you, it's very scary what's happening in America right now. And if things continue in that direction, America is becoming more and more like a dictatorship. This is very, very scary. This is not the America that I came to in 1985 legally from France. I came to a country that was, to me, it was the land of opportunity, and it truly was. It's still, I think, the best country in the world, but what's happening is very scary. Number 3, a bureaucracy, a rigid hierarchy of bureaus, chiefs, petty officials, leading to the attitude of I was just following orders, like you saw during the Holocaust. So I think all those are already in place. Then the next one, who's going to argue with me that technology is also in place to provide the practical instruments for mass murder? So technology is definitely in place. 5, a crisis, like a war or an opportune moment to act on the hatred. It doesn't have to be a war, but a crisis of sorts. And finally, a minority or scapegoat to be demonized, leading to its ethnic cleansing. So that was the way that Simon Wiesenthal defined the criteria for that would lead to the possibility of another Holocaust. And I believe that all the boxes are checked in that area. Now, I want to show you, I hope it works. I have a video of just a few seconds. I hope the sound will work. I'm pretty sure it will. Next slide is a video that was taken in Florida about, I want to say about a month ago or so, maybe a little more. There was a group that is from the US that is very anti-Semitic. And the man speaking on that video is actually the founder and leader of this group. I believe his name is John Minadeo II, and the group is known as the Goyim Defense League, which is a play on words on the Anti-Defamation League and the Jewish Defense League. They're very anti-Semitic. He's talking to a man crossing the street, and he's talking to a Jewish man in a car in South Florida. And I just want to show to you. Let's see if it's going to work. Hold on. I'm going to play it.
Do you think you should be put in an oven? You Jewish? Oh my God. Leave our country, go back to Israel. You know where you bomb Palestinian kids? Where we fund you stupid Jews? $8 billion a year? You look like a horse. You look like a Jewish horse. Put a horse face on this Jew.
So in case you did not hear clearly what this man said, oops, sorry, let me get to the next slide. There you go. Those two things he said. He said, do you think you should be put in ovens as a reminder of what took place in the Holocaust, and telling a Jewish person walking, you should go back in ovens? And then to the guy in the car, he said, leave our country, go back to Israel where you bomb Palestinian kids. This happened about a month ago in Florida. And it's just to give you an idea of where we are. So this is very, very alarming. Now, the 10 steps that I'm going to try to go over in the next few minutes and I'll give you some examples, are apathy, lack of education, low or incorrect reporting, desensitization, lack of accountability, empowerment, demonization of the defenders, persecution of the Jews and the defenders, encouragement to kill, mass murder of Jews. So they happen not necessarily, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is a little bit of a progression, but they can also overlap. Like, for instance, apathy can continue all the way through the process of the 10 steps. Some can stop, some can go longer. So it's not one leading to the next. It stops, the next come. There is some overlap and there's some continuity. It's a little more involved than that. But for the sake of the presentation, I want to divide them into 10. So apathy is when people don't seem.
Olivier, excuse me. Can you put your volume up a little more? I think you lowered it.
Or microphone closer.
Or microphone.
Is that better?
A little.
Okay, I don't know why I didn't change anything.
Maybe after the video it went down a little.
Okay, if I get closer to the
Yes.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so apathy is number one, is when people don't seem to care about anti-Semitism unless they are directly affected through someone they know. Anti-Semitism is not, that's the reality, it's not on most Christians' radar. You talk to Christians, I talk to them all the time. They don't have a clue what's going on. And the reality is, when people don't care, they don't respond, they don't react. Sometimes, Christians might have a neighbor next door who's Jewish. They don't know they're Jewish. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. Or sometimes they just go like, well, you know what's happening to the Jewish community? It's not my community. I'm not part of it. It's far enough from me. So they don't care. It's very, very sad, but I see it all the time. There is people are just apathetic and they just don't get involved in anything. I want to quote this pastor, Martin Niemöller. You've heard the quote before. It's been used and used and used, but it's still a very powerful quote because if people continue being apathetic toward anti-Semitism, they will miss the greater danger looming over other communities. It starts with the Jews, but it doesn't end there. And that's what Martin Niemöller said, and I'm sure most of you have heard that quote, but it's worth repeating. First, I came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So we really have to understand that if we don't get involved, Christians are not far behind what's happening to the Jews, and actually there's things happening concurrently against believers as we speak. So that's the first thing. Now I'm going to be showing you some pictures of people, of famous people, and I just want to make something very clear. I am absolutely not interested in character assassination. The only reason why I put pictures or quote people is because I want to educate people and let them know this is what this person said, and here is that quote from that person, and pass that through the filter of the Bible and tell me, is this something that should be said? Is it something that should be done? So when I put those pictures, it is not just to expose them, make fun of them, and do character assassination. And my hope and prayer is that you would join me in that mindset. Okay, so for instance, here is Whoopi Goldberg, who is still convinced that the Holocaust was not about race, but rather a white-on-white crime. She said that more than once. She barely apologized. And that's under the second criteria, which is lack of education. I've been fighting for 23 years to educate people, so this is a big deal. This lack of education is very scary. We have to understand that anti-Semitism did not happen in a vacuum. It did not start overnight. And most people are unaware of the key players who are, the victims, the perpetrators, the co-perpetrators, the bystanders who are helping the perpetrators, and the rescuers. So there's a lot of different elements on the stage, of anti-Semitism, but people know very little. For somebody like Whoopi Goldberg, who said that the Holocaust wasn't about race, it was kind of a stupid statement, and it was, of course, probably politically charged, and it's a lack of education. And what's very interesting is that there are several people, at least in America, that I know of, that have said some really, really strong anti-Semitic, stupid statements about the Jewish people and the Holocaust. And when invited to, when they've been invited on a paid trip to go visit Auschwitz, they turn it down. They say, no, I'm not interested in going. So it's like, I'm going to make a statement about something that I'm not interested in learning. So lack of education is bad. When there is a fight against being educated, then you see the person is not being very honest. And I think that's the case with some of these people. So according to a Pew Research survey, 84% of Americans still do not know what the term BDS means: boycott, divestment, and sanctions. I speak in churches all the time, friends, and I ask people, how many of you do not know what BDS means? And always 2/3, 3/4 of the church, they raise their hands. They don't know what it is. And they should know what it is, because it's a very, very dangerous political position against the Jewish people and against Israel, and against those who support Israel and the Jewish people. Many Christians are in denial regarding Martin Luther's anti-Semitic diatribes at the end of his life. I was doing a seminar at Dallas Seminary last week on anti-Semitism, and when I spoke on Martin Luther in the Q&A session, one of the students who was doing their degree and they're taking church history, they look at me with big open eyes. They said, like, what did Martin Luther say? What did he do? And I had to expose them to the book that he wrote of the Jews and their lies. And they had no idea. And as a matter of fact, I took a class when I did my master's degree at DTS. I took a class on church history, and I thought, for sure, at this level, at seminary, at DTS, I'm sure that they will speak on some of the diatribes that were dispensed by the early church fathers and the rest of the church fathers, and all the way to Martin Luther. Not all of them, but many of them. Nothing. There was a 5-line paragraph in one of the 2 massive books that I had to read for the class, 5 lines on some of the anti-Semitic statements of some of the church fathers, very, very brief. And nothing was said in the class. And I was kind of shocked. So that's why I continue doing what I do, because I don't see a lot of people that should do some of the education doing it. So anyway, most Christians have never heard of the 1920 San Remo Conference, which was more legally defining for modern Israel than the 1947 UN vote for the partition of British Mandate Palestine. So how can we fight an enemy we do not know? You have to know your enemy. I really like, I'm going to try to, to go find solutions to each of the steps the best I can. I really, really appreciate the work of Natan Sharansky, a Russian refusenik, lives in Israel, and he came up with this 3Ds of anti-Semitism, and I think it's probably about 15 years old, this what he came up with, maybe even older. I don't think anybody has come up with anything better since. So I use that all the time as my criteria. You look at something that took place, and if it fits under demonization of Israel or the Jews, or double standards against Israel and the Jews and compared to other people or countries, or delegitimization of Israel and or the Jews, if it fits in any of those 3 or a combination of them, then it is an act of anti-Semitism. That is a very, very good way to define if something is anti-Semitism, to determine if it's anti-Semitism. Demonization, double standards, delegitimization. Those are the 3 Ds from Natan Sharansky. So demonization is, and I'm going to give it to you. Let's see, I'm trying to see if I want to do that or move, how much time I need to be done, about 15 after, right? So let me quickly, I'm going to skip those and go to, okay, so I'm going to go to 3. You have them in the notes. Remember, those are the definition of the 3Ds, but you'll have them in the notes. Correct reporting. January 2022 in Colleyville, Texas, and I was there when it happened. It's about an hour and a half from my house. Hostage situation at a synagogue on Shabbat by a Muslim man was initially declared not anti-Semitic by the local FBI director. The FBI eventually changed its story after pressure from the Jewish community. But it was on Shabbat. It was by a Muslim man who wanted to take some hostages, the rabbi and some congregants. And the first interview on the news by the local FBI director was like, "There's nothing anti-Semitic here, nothing to see." They were forced to change their what they declared that because they said that was clearly anti-Semitic. How about this one in 2022 in Lyon, France? A 90-year-old Jewish man, René Hajjaj, was pushed out of his 17th story window by a neighbor. Of course, he obviously died. 17th floor. The authorities initially saw no reason to suspect anti-Semitism from his Arab neighbor who pushed him through the window. So that's when you have low or incorrect reporting. And now you even have Jewish people who do not want to report because they see that nothing is being done. That's why it's getting very critical. February 2023, that's like 2 months ago. The Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel used a photo they labeled 1948 Tantura Massacre. This was a battle that took place in Israel during the War of Independence when some Arabs, this is clearly a death of Arab people. I think it might have been up to 200. It was the War of Independence. And so they used That picture, they use this picture to say that this is what the Jews did to the Arabs, when in fact, that photo had nothing to do with 1948. It has been verified to be a photo from the Nordhausen concentration camp in Germany. So it was not Jews killing Arabs. It's a picture of mass murder of Jews by Nazis. And they use that photo. Nobody's checking their facts. They go like, this is terrible what those Israelis are doing to the Jews. And again, that photo was taken completely out of context. So the reporting is incorrect, but nobody checks anything anymore. And so that's number three. So when we are victim of anti-Semitism or we witness it, we need to report it. If the authorities are going to help, then it's the first place to go. The media is also a good place to go, and of course, Jewish advocacy groups such as those that I listed, and I will give you their website at the end of my PowerPoint. Stand With Us, the Canary Mission, Moment Magazine Anti-Semitism Monitor, and the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting in America, known as CAMRA. Silence is complicity, my friends. We need to stand up. We need to speak up. Those groups will get your information, and they carry some weight. They will be heard. Those advocacy groups will be heard a lot more than us as single individuals, but you need to report it. It takes not very long to go on those websites and say, this is what happened. You report it. And if you need to go to the media, you need to go to the media. The authorities, I don't know in Canada how it works, but I know in America, it doesn't always work very well. They don't take those things to the full extent of the law. So it's becoming very frustrating. Number 4 is desensitization. Desensitization is a diminished emotional response to a negative or positive stimulus. Desensitization can come from both friends and foes, and it is expected from foes. But when you get it from people within the church, I've seen people within the church. You know where I see desensitization the most, and I'm sure you've experienced some of that, is when people, believers and unbelievers, when they do Jewish jokes. That's desensitization. They have no clue that those are offensive. Jewish jokes about Jews lacking money, being greedy, or all those things. People think they're funny. I hear those jokes in the church, and I cringe when I hear them. And I try to you don't want to correct people in public, although they said the joke in public. You try to take them in private and say, that joke is not really funny to me, and it's actually very damaging to the Jewish community. But they're desensitized. They think it's funny. They don't realize that it's an issue. So again, when we hear comments that are clearly insensitive about Jewish people, what we need to do is we need to, in private, quickly try to correct the situation. Say, listen, this is not a good thing. You do it always in private, and you do it lovingly, but you need to correct people. I used to never correct people when they did jokes. I would go kind of do a fake laugh, like a nervous laugh, like, oh yeah, and move away from the topic. But now I really try to correct people, because if you don't, they won't know. And very often when you correct people on a joke, they'll go like, oh, I'm so sorry, I did not know. So it's important that we help people understand that. Number 5, no accountability. I'm looking at the time here. May 2017 in Paris, a retired Jewish doctor, Sarah Halimi, was thrown out of her second floor window by her neighbor, Kolibi Traore, screaming Al Akbar, and killed her. And the man, here he is, in 2021, 4 years after the event, the French Cour de Cassation, which is basically the equivalent of the Supreme Court in the US, the highest court in France, decided that he was not responsible for anything because he was high on cannabis when he killed a woman. So they did not even have a trial for him. He's not going to have a trial. We're going to let him walk. What you need to understand is in France, you can get up to 5 years in prison and 50,000 euro fine if you throw your pet out the window. So here is what the Jewish community is hearing. If you throw a Jew out of the window, as long as you smoke a joint, you walk free. but don't throw your dog out the window because you could go to jail. This is what the Jewish community is hearing from the French government because they did not trial the guy. It's not even he went on trial and he walked. They chose not to trial him. That's very, very scary. Now, of course, you also have, and you have that in Canada as well, Campus Intifada, Campus Jihad, where you have a lot of seminars and conferences, pro-Palestinian speakers. Well, they completely boycott anything that is to do with Zionism or pro-Israel. So one-sided. They will let anybody who wants to destroy Israel speak freely on campus, but as soon as there is a pro-Israel event, they boycott, they boo them, they stand in front of the doors, and it's really indoctrinating our children in university to hate Israel. This is a big problem. There was a U.S. bipartisan task force requested by Congress in 2022. And a lot of those things, they identify the problem, they form committees to discuss and strategize, they gather statistics, numbers, they print a big report, they implement very little, and they enforce even less. That's why the Jewish community is getting very discouraged, and that's why the Jewish community needs people like us, people like you, to go out to them and say, listen, I've got your back. We are at this stage, my friends, in our history. We need to let Jewish people know verbally, in person, face to face, I've got your back. I'm a believer. I'm a Bible-believing follower of Yeshua of Nazareth, and I've got your back. If you need anything, let me know. This is where we are. I put the same thing for the solution here on accountability. If you see something that's not being taken care of, reach out to the same group. So I'm just going to skip on that slide because you already saw the same thing. Number 6, and it's getting more and more dangerous as we speak. Empowerment. The result of the lack of accountability is the empowerment of the perpetrators and increase in anti-Semitic crimes. According to the ADL, anti-Semitic incidents reached all-time high in 2021, 34% increase over 2020. Attacks against synagogues increased by 61%. I should have changed that slide today. I did not realize I did not have an update. We did receive the 2022 numbers. 2022 was 36% higher than 2021, which was already 34% higher. 2022 is the highest number of anti-Semitic acts since they started keeping track of anti-Semitism in 1979. You're looking at 45 years of data being gathered. 2022 was the highest ever. Over 3,700 acts of anti-Semitism. And my friend, those are the ones who are reported. A lot of them are not reported because the Jewish community is like, what's the point? They're not going to do anything about it. So those are the ones who are reported. That's 10 acts of anti-Semitism per day. I used to get 24 years ago, and I started researching and writing on the topic and speaking on the topic. I look for those, and I would get 1 a week, couple, 2 or 3 a month, 10 a day, 10 per day. This is where we are. And I put the link on the slide so you can, don't take my word for it, check the link. Number 6, when you're made aware toward a solution for empowerment, when you're made aware of empowerment of anti-Semites, don't let them intimidate you. Know the law so you can warn people and report them. We are all that the Jewish community has right now. Evangelicals, believers who love Israel, who understand the God's plan for Israel, we are all they have, because most of the authorities are not doing much. I know it's the same in Canada as in the US or in France and other countries. 7, demonization of the defenders. So you need to do something to help your Jewish friend, but you also need to be aware that you are going to be demonized. When you help Israel, when you love Israel, when you help the Jewish people, they're going to point the finger at you. You better be ready for that. The current polarization of America, and really I could put Canada as well, makes it very difficult to dialogue or speak up to defend people. Civility seems to be a thing of the past. That ship has sailed. The day where we could speak and agree to disagree in a conversation on any topic, that ship has sailed. If you say anything that is against what the other person is promoting or believing, you're being labeled as, all the things that we hear: anti-Semite, bigot, racist, and all those things. Those who choose to defend the victims of anti-Semitism are exposing themselves. You need to know that you are going to be, if you help, and I believe you will be exposed. You're exposing yourselves as you will be demonized. But we still need to take sides and defend those who are victims of anti-Semitism. I want to remind you of something. This is a picture of Anne Frank. Those who hid Anne Frank were breaking the law. Those who killed her were following the law. Just let that sink in for a moment. Number 8, we're almost done. You're listening very fast, so I can go very fast. That's good. But remember, you'll get the notes, so you're not missing anything. Increased persecution of Jews. And I believe that's already happening. Starting in the mid-30s, the persecution of the Jews was mandated, encouraged, and even rewarded. Persecution can be physical or verbal, or both. Paris, December 2022, a TV guest was publicly criticized for wearing a kippah on a TV show, and he was asked to keep his religion to himself. This is, he was just, and he said, listen, I'm Jewish. I didn't wear it for the show. I wear it all the time. And he was told, well, you should keep it to yourself. And he said, I'm sorry, my name is Cohen. I was born in Israel. How do you want me to keep my Jewishness to myself? It's just ludicrous. It was on French national TV. Of course, you might have heard in 2022 that the Berkeley, the very conservative Berkeley University in California, not conservative at all, the 9 UC Berkeley Law School groups within the UC Berkeley Law Schools decided to develop Jewish-free zones on campus. Very, very reminiscent of the Judenfrei Nazi Germany. Jewish-free zones on campus. Friends, I used to say 20 years ago, we are going to eventually get back into the 1930s and 1940s for the Jewish people. Now we're talking about creating Jew-free zones on university campus. Friends, we are in the 30s and the 40s. We're not getting there. We are there, and it's going to exponentially get worse and worse. I can't believe how fast it's gotten in the last 5 years. So some of the language used by the law schools is very concerning. I'm going to skip that because you can read it on your own. This is the what they were saying at the campus. When a solution for the increased persecution of Jews, toward a solution, I call it what I like to call it the Daniel approach. Daniel 3:16 through 18. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to give you an answer concerning this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up." So we have to be willing to come to the rescue of our Jewish friends in the name of the gospel and with the gospel. We do it because we want to build bridges. We do it because we want to create relationship. We do it because of the gospel, and we do it boldly with the gospel. We don't want to be obnoxious about it, but we have to let our friends know that we want to help you. We want to stand between you and anti-Semitism. We want to be a voice against it because of what the Bible teaches us. And let me see. I want to skip a couple of things here. Let's talk for a second. It's important. Encouragement to kill Jews. We're almost done, friends. We're almost done. Encouragement to kill Jews. Most of you have heard, I'm sure by now, of Kanye West's diatribe when one day he said, I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, which was the beginning of a series of statements he made that got worse and worse and worse. Now he has 30 million followers. So a lot of people heard about this. It made a big deal on the news. But what really worried me, I mean, all the advertisers dropped him, and that was the right thing to do. But what really worried me was some other famous newscast people and famous speakers and people on the internet came to his rescue in ways that are very, very concerning. One of them was this Black woman that I used to really respect, conservative, young Black voice. Her name is Candace Owens. Some of you might know who she is. She said, if you're an honest person, and they're friends. Kanye and Candace are good friends. Still, if you're an honest person, you did not think this tweet was anti-Semitic. You did not think that he wrote this tweet because he hates or wants to genocide the Jewish people. This does not represent the beginning of a Holocaust. And I put the link so you can hear her say that. Again, I'm giving you the source of what I'm speaking about. I'm just not making it up. Why is this important? Watch this. Martin Luther did not look forward to Hitler when he wrote of the Jews and their lies, when he wrote his diatribe against the Jews. But Hitler looked back and said, hey, I can finish what Martin Luther started. I'll do my best to do it. And the rest is history. 6 million Jews later, he almost finished the job. Kanye West is not looking forward to another Holocaust against the Jews. But whoever it is on the question mark, you can put people, countries, whatever, they're going to be looking back going like, hey, Kanye West said this about the Jews. Let's finish the job. So what I think is Candace Owens is she needs to be educated on the importance of words. Luther spoke. Hitler acted upon the words. Kanye West spoke. Somebody's going to come and act upon his words. And that's why we cannot do things like this. We cannot let it go unpunished. So the last one, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because you already know that, the mass murder of Jews, which is the only one that I think is not happening. All the first 9 that I showed you are happening, have happened, or they're happening concurrently, overlapping, all the way to this one, mass murder of Jews. The mass murder of Jews is what we're going to see during the tribulation. We cannot escape, or we will escape it with the rapture, but we cannot escape the truth of that statement in Zechariah 13, 8 and 9. Will come about in all the land, declares the Lord, that 2 parts in it will be cut off and perish, but the third will be left in it. And I will bring the third part through the fire, refine them as silver is refined, test them as gold is tested. They will call on my name and I will answer them. I will say they are my people, and they will say the Lord is my God. 2/3 of the Jewish people will perish in the great tribulation. But friends, I want this to be an encouragement to you all. We don't have a number here. You might have heard me say that before. The Lord, when he wants to give us numbers in the Bible, he gives us clear numbers. 144,000, the 12 tribes, the 40 days, the 6 days of creation, all those numbers, precise numbers, the 1,000-year millennium. Here we have a percentage. Every Jewish person that we share with that comes to a saving knowledge of Messiah will not be part of that 2/3 that perish in those who are left behind. They'll come with us in the rapture. So we have a biblical mandate to reach out to the Jewish community so we can reduce that 2/3, the number included in the 2/3. So that should be an encouragement. And also remember that every Jewish male that you talk to right now, I'm not setting dates, but every Jewish male you're talking to is a potential Jewish male that will be in 144,000 during the tribulation, because I don't know how much longer we have. So that's also should be an encouragement to you. I think I want to let's see what I don't, yeah. So look at this man here, a lone man refusing to do the Nazi salute in 1936. I want to be that man. When people are pushing us to do things to hurt the Jews, I want to be that man. We want to be that man. So I think I want to end right here. What is left for us to do when we have become abnormal to society? We're going to become abnormal as well, because the new normal is going to be to go after the Jews. When it comes to Jewish people, all that might be left for us as believers is to protect them and provide for them. That's where we are. That's where we need to prepare ourselves, continue to prepare ourselves to be the rescuers, to be the new righteous among the nations, to go out and help the Jewish people. I don't have time to go through that, but that's based on Matthew 25, 31 through 46, the goat and the sheep. It's all explained in my book. I'm not trying to sell you my book, but there's more details in the book. But really, friends, this is critical. The time is now. Our Jewish friends need us right now. Those are the 10 stages, and out of the 10 stages, 9 of them are already in place. What's left is the mass murder of Jews. Before we are taken in the rapture, we can do something. My prayer is that you would join me in being a voice against anti-Semitism and in standing between the Jewish community and the anti-Semites. We have to stand in the middle because we have to do something. Thank you.
Wow, that was a lot of information. And
yes.
Good stuff. Thank you, Olivier. I will be sending the link to everybody as well. If you send it to me, and we'll put it on our website as well, so people can access it and have if you want the PowerPoint as well, we can send you that. It is a critical time, and there's a hard reality to swallow.
Yes.
If you watch the news here in Canada, I like to watch one channel that has headlines so that I know in a quick time what is going on quickly. But it is very evident the bias in the news. When things happen in Israel, they will usually put the one side of the story and mostly against Israel. So have to be watchful. And there are organizations here as well that we can approach to report issues like that. And so thank you for that. I think that the encouraging word is also that we have a solution. We have the Messiah. We have the love of God, and we need to love our Jewish friends, and we need to love our Gentile friends, and we need to put things straight. The saying is, share the truth in love. Okay? Share the truth in love. And Messiah, when he comes, is going to put everything in order. But until that time, we have to do our part. And I encourage you. So thank you again, Olivier, for the presentation, for being with us today.